being present is actually what could help us ground and center, change our energy, awaken to our livelihood and our wholeness. And we don't know how to do it anymore. We can't be present because we don't have the sustainability. I don't know how to be in a moment for longer than I need to because instant gratification, right? I ran out of coffee. I could wait 4 days, go get it, ground it, pick it, or I could just ask Amazon to deliver it for me in an hour or two. And if it's not there, we have full-blown tantrums.
So I remember once my friend had 3 mats and he got 3 glasses of water, and he wrote down like love, put the paper underneath it, and he wrote down hate, put the paper underneath the second one, and he wrote down neutral underneath the third one. And at that point I was just understanding about how water held information. And maybe it was in my mind, but the water tastes differently. Because if you change your thought behind anything, it changes the outcome. So if in that moment it was made with love, say that glass of wine, and I don't, for example, like the fact that it's in a tumbler, then my energy can collapse the energy behind the love. I've kind of changed it, like I've made it turn negative because I had a negative outcome. So, even if something is made with love, if we observe it in a negative way, when we just ruin everything, we change the whole lot.
As people, we can show up in different ways. Maybe the things happening to us are the same, but the vessel and how we treat it can look very different. And then that's the difference in with regards to like how emotions move through us, right? How events move through us, how trauma builds up, how stress, anxiety, etc. The things that happen to us affect us differently depending on how the vessel is showing up that day, whether it's a plastic cup, a paper cup, a chalice, a glass made of gold, or, something with holes in it, right? Where you're actually losing some of the liquid and then you're not even getting to enjoy everything, So yeah, the vessel matters.
Just quickly, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who still listens to the podcast. I started 4 years ago, and since then I've had over 1 million downloads. I get 5,000 downloads per month, and I've had over 200 different guests. So a massive thank you to everyone who still listens. If you could please do me a favour, if you could rate and review the podcast, that will be amazing because it helps get the podcast out to new, conscious people like yourself. And my goal is to awaken as many people around the world. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's YesKingOliver. Should you wish to see what I get up to on my day-to-day moments. Back to the episode.
So I was in a cafe yesterday in Brighton Beach and I was having this cup of tea, and I noticed that it tasted a lot better than the same cup of tea that I had the day before. And the only difference was that it was in a different glass. And I hear a lot of women say that wine tastes very different in specific glasses. So if you have a flute and you have like a nice white wine in it, then it will taste different compared to if you had it in just a tumbler. And I used to be like to my mum, surely that makes no difference. And actually, when you think about how water and liquid picks up on energy vibrations, so the fact that we're saying that this glass is going to taste nicer with this wine means that that energy in the glass is now charged differently. And when you think about how the tea pot, if it's made really nice in a teapot, then you've put all that time and energy and love and gratitude into the teapot, and then that will obviously charge the water in the tea, and then you'll be drinking it feeling different. Versus if somebody just quickly pours a tea in a mug, then it's going to be made with no love, and there's no love around the teapot because it's just quickly made. And it makes me realize that all these things come down to your intention. Like doing the same thing without intention completely scraps the thing itself. It's all about the intention.
It makes me think of vessel, like the word vessel popped up to me, because you're literally pouring the same thing, right? Whether it's the tea or the wine or whatever the drink is, right? Coffee, into a different vessel, right? Which I think we can say the same thing about us. As people, we can show up in different ways. Maybe the things happening to us are the same, but the vessel and how we treat it can look very different. And then that's the difference in with regards to like how emotions move through us, right? How events move through us, how trauma builds up, how stress, anxiety, etc. So actually really appreciate what you're saying, because it's like things taste different. The things that happen to us affect us differently depending on how the vessel is showing up that day, whether it's a plastic cup, a paper cup, a chalice, a glass made of gold, or, something with holes in it, right? Where you're actually losing some of the liquid and then you're not even getting to enjoy everything, So yeah, the vessel matters.
Yeah, so like the amount of time and quality and money that was, say, put into some nice china, Tupperware, versus some crappy little pot that was made in China and that was just sent around the world in AliExpress. The difference of like intention behind that, like the china, just like clay in a teapot, is part of the earth. It's made from earth minerals at some point, and that is going to be absorbing energy. So from the minute it's like taken from the ground, it's holding vibration. And along the way of intention, love, who made it, the time it was taken to make, how quickly it was made, it's all part of the process. And I thought to myself, when you go into Costa, it doesn't taste the same compared to a little independent local calf who makes it. And I thought, what's the difference? Everyone in the Costa is literally like, hurry up, I've got to go, hurry up. So the barista is just quickly doing it, bang, 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 bang. She's really stressed, so there's no love into it. She's literally a machine. And then you've got all the frequencies in the restaurant of the staff and the customers that are just like, I've got to go. The whole place is at a different resonance compared to a nice independent local cafe where little Barbara is taking her time to do it slowly because there's no big queue, and it's probably her own little cafe. And she's making the little flower on top really pretty, and she's taking her time, and then she hands it down to you. The whole process is made with love, and as a result it tastes so much different.
Well, it's the saying, right, of like, you get in, you get out what you put in, right? So I mean, I'm not a huge let's say I will drink coffee. I'm not a huge coffee drinker. I feel like I've kind of acclimated to it, especially over like the pandemic. But it's almost like I know that drinks have different flavors, obviously, but there's a bitterness sometimes. And as you're speaking, I'm wondering if like the bitterness also comes through because of the bitterness of the people and the environment that are serving it, that you can have two of the same drink in different, a different cafe or a different shop, and they should taste the same, but they don't. And even if the recipe is the same, it's like, I think what you're speaking to, right, is like, what was the intention behind it? What was the love? What was the energy, of just the person making it? It affects the ingredients. It affects the process. Yeah. I mean, at the heart of it, it's like, cafes used to be a place where we could enjoy and sit. For me, it's like people watching. I love to just sit back, relax, take my time. But more and more, I think they're like, transactional, right? Whether it's just in, you're making me something, I'm buying it. I'm waiting for someone to, run a meeting. Like, we're just not enjoying the process. And yeah, perhaps that affects the flavor, literally, of what we're ingesting, but also of the environment itself.
So I remember once my friend had 3 mats and he got 3 glasses of water, and he wrote down like love, put the paper underneath it, and he wrote down hate, put the paper underneath the second one, and he wrote down neutral underneath the third one. And at that point I was just understanding about how water held information, and maybe it was in my mind, but the water tastes differently. And even if, for example, I'm not there seeing what one is which, the fact that he wrote down on that piece of paper, and as he was writing, his hand was that energy of the word hate, of the word love, there's going to be a different resonance underneath that bottle. And obviously we know with quantum physics, it knows you're observing it, even if you're not there. So even if I can't see what's underneath, my friend who wrote it knows what's there. He's observing it, and it's like creating a different energy frequency underneath each bottle, which is changing the water in real time, even though there's glass or metal. It's all going through. And so when you think about how information is carried and changed everywhere by the in seconds. If you change your thought behind anything, it changes the outcome. So if in that moment it was made with love, say that glass of wine, and I don't, for example, like the fact that it's in a tumbler, then my energy can collapse the energy behind the love. I've kind of changed it. Like I've made it turn negative because I had a negative outcome. So, even if something is made with love, if we observe it in a negative way, well, we just ruin everything. We change the whole lot.
I think it speaks to this broader picture too of, at least where I'm coming from in terms of, mental health and, trying to support how we feel. And, for a lot of people living with anxiety, which is an energy, right, all in itself, that we think words alone are going to make the difference. If I speak it, that will change the energy. I will feel different. I will feel better, etc. Right. And I think what you're speaking to is the fact that words alone don't do what we want them to do. That if we're not showing up fully in those moments as either the love or the freedom, the calm, the expression that we're looking for, then it's never going to change, right? Those words, right? It's never going to change the content of those glasses. It's actually going to taint it, and then we spend our whole lives wondering why, well, I'm doing the things, I'm saying the right things, I'm doing the affirmations, I'm doing this, but you're not changing, right, the energy of you. You're showing up in the same way, you're moving in the same ways, probably unintentionally. And so that awakening, right, that awareness of how, maybe going back to that word vessel, how we show up in these moments so we can make sure that we're not just receiving what we want, that love or whatever the intention is, but that we're not putting it out into the world either. Like you said, even if I'm taking that glass and it's infused with love, I could be putting something into it that I'm not even realizing and actually turning that love into hate, or self-hatred. So it really matters how we show up, how we exude our energy. I think that's the first step before the thinking process, right? Because we could think something totally counter to what we're doing physically, what we're showing through our bodies.
Yeah, what's coming to mind is, when you set uploading a long document to the drive or a long video up to YouTube, if it's gone up to say 70-80% and then you go off the app, then you're going to ruin the whole thing. You have to start again.
Right.
So if people want a certain situation to unfold in a positive way, they've got to imagine that the whole process, they've got to imagine the completed process, even though it hasn't been completed yet. So all the things that they're expecting obviously has to have an order, but there's going to be things in between that process which isn't what you want, and often we'll focus on that bit, and then that's the same as going out the app and the whole thing starts again. Instead, knowing that the issues and the wrong frequencies in between is part of the process, and waiting for those blockages to occur, having this end goal of this is going to happen, the universe will sort itself out and do the things it needs to along the way to get the end result. But instead we focus on the issue along the way, and then, as you say, turn bitter when we're not getting what we want now, instead of understanding that there's a process and things take time, and trusting that the end goal will be what you want, and just focusing on the end goal and not the issues along the way. And the domino effect of one by one, it will all fall in the favor of what you wish. Focus on the end goal.
Yeah, I think makes me think of distraction, so that uploading, downloading is a great example, right? Because if, you're on your computer and something's taking especially longer than you want it to, we get maybe anxious, we get impatient. We're so used to multitasking and doing so many things at once because, heaven forbid we just sit there and be in the process, right? Like you said, that we get distracted. And then it's like, okay, well, this is taking really long. I could, catch up on this, TV show. I could scroll through my phone for the next 20 minutes and keep myself occupied. And I think the same thing happens. It's like, we need to keep focusing, not hyper focusing, but like we want to focus on those intentions, because it's very easy for the energy to change, right? Like we can walk away from something and someone else takes our attention, and all of a sudden those feel good vibes that we had turn into resentment, anger, frustration. Not that those things are bad, but it's like someone else takes the energy that we were putting into that. So sitting and focusing, so to speak, on what you said, kind of like the end goal is, rather than getting distracted, which is like currency in our world today. We get distracted so easily. People make money off of our distraction, and then monetize it further. So, going back to what you said at the beginning of that glass of wine or drink, whatever it is, what about presence? Like, can we just be present to the experience, present to the taste, present to the process? We're just so quick about things. If the whole point is I just need caffeine to wake myself up, then I don't care what the coffee is in. But what happened to enjoying the moment, taking the time to pour it, having, like you said, Barbara, make that beautiful cup with the really pretty flower on top, right? Like, enjoy the things that I think we overlook so often now, because it's just, it's not enough. It's not enough for us, right? It's just a cup of coffee, but it's more than that. It's an experience, and we are not present to a lot of the experiences in the world, which totally changes the way that we show up, right? How awakened or alive we are to those moments, and the domino effect later on. Like not being present to something now, I could be missing so many beautiful steps along the way. I think it's sad. I think in many ways, that we can't just enjoy and be present to some of the simpler things today, even if it is a coffee break, like that's, a lot of people don't get those times, get those moments, and to be intentional with how we show up in those moments with regard to our energy.
So when I was younger, I was used to asking my dad for something and he'd come immediately, he'd do it immediately. So I was used to things getting done now. And he'd say, wait, Oliver, and I have to wait. And it was horrific. And I think about how ChatGPT, I can ask anything and get the answer immediately. And I think to myself, we're getting too used to getting things done now. And that's not how life works. Flowers take time, babies take time, sunrise takes time. Everything has a certain time order. Yeah. And having all this AI shit is giving us unrealistic expectations. Even like with dating, we want our partner now. We want to go on a date now. We want to find out if they're the one now, so we can move on to the next. And we're missing the process of like waiting and enjoying the process, like waiting 5 days for the weekend to go on a date, waiting a week to go to the shop to get something for the house, as opposed to ordering it now and then Amazon drop it off tomorrow.
Or worse, an hour from now.
Yeah. And so we're making this like unrealistic expectation of forgetting about the art is the art is the process, also the journey, not the destination. If we're just so focused on the destination and the destination isn't what we think it is, then there is nothing in life. Because if the art is the journey and there is no journey, what's the point? And we're just, I think, going to drive ourselves crazy looking for this like thing to do to pass the time by, and it won't be there because everything's now, and there's no time to really enjoy anything. And when AI goes away, or we don't have enough power to run it, our brains are going to be so used to doing things now that it's almost like we're going to have to de-evolve. So like we've evolved, then we're going to have to de-evolve. And it's like going back to an old relationship. You're not supposed to go back because there's reasons why it ended. But then our brain's like, well, we can go back. But then the universe is like, no, this isn't supposed to happen. It's man-made. Like, you're not supposed to go back. You're supposed to evolve and not have to go back. Like apes evolved from picking off berries on the tree and then catching a fish and then putting it in the oven and then the air fryer. Like, we're not supposed to go back and start, using a spear again and having all this AI stuff doing it now. We're going to be like, well, I built my business on having answers now. All my customers are going away because they can't wait 5 minutes. Business has gone bust, can't afford the mortgage, lost the dog and the wife. Shit.
I think what you're speaking to is skills, Right. So it's like, I mean, I hear what you're saying 100%. And I think of that all the time of like, we're evolving past things that maybe we don't need to do today because of conveniences, good or bad. Maybe that's another conversation. But the problem I see is we're losing the skills, right? So if I go out and I say, you know what, it's easier for someone else to catch the fish for me right now because I don't have the time. Not that that's a great excuse, but right, I'm filling my time with something else, and so I'm going to pick the fish up on my way, and then I'm going to go enjoy the sunrise, right? Versus saying, I don't know how to do this anymore. I can't get my food because I've forgotten how to prepare it myself. I don't know where to get a spear. I don't even know where the fish are anymore. That's what I'm afraid of. Like, I'm afraid that AI, and it already is taking skills away from us, and we're going to forget how to do them. Ironically, this is kind of what I talk about when it comes to movement is, I say the word movement or even dance. People are like so afraid of that word, but I say movement and they just automatically think exercise, and exercise is too much for them, or their body isn't capable of, quote, that kind of exercise. And I have to remind people to just go back to the basics. Like, you are breathing, therefore you are moving. You are blinking, therefore you're moving, and it's like, we've evolved past the knowledge of the simple. Like, what is movement, right? So same thing with what you're saying is like this AI thing. It's like, okay, great. I don't really want to put the time or energy into creating a caption on Instagram. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to ask it to create a small caption on trauma and the body. And you know what? It does a great job for the most part. But if I do it so much that I don't remember why trauma impacts the body or what trauma is or even what my body is anymore, that's a problem. So we're missing those critical thinking skills. And as you're saying, like, we're missing skills in general, skills for survival, skills for being present. Presence is huge. We're in this crisis of uncertainty and anxiety. There's lots of stuff going on in the world that we feel very unsure of, right? To say the least. And being present is actually what could help us ground and center, change our energy, awaken to our livelihood and our wholeness. And we don't know how to do it anymore. We can't be present because we don't have the sustainability. I don't know how to be in a moment for longer than I need to because instant gratification, right? I ran out of coffee. I could wait 4 days, go get it, ground it, pick it, whatever. Or I could just ask Amazon, right? Or those conglomerates, right? To deliver it for me in an hour or two. And if it's not there, we have full-blown tantrums. They look different maybe than a 2-year-old's, but we do have tantrums when we don't get what we want.
So I was actually like on ChatGPT the other day, and as I was getting annoyed with it not doing what I wanted it to do,
Mm-hmm.
I remember becoming aware of years ago when I made a website, I'd have to learn how to build the website, connect it to Facebook ads, connect it to Google ads. My brain would learn from the last thing. And
Mm-hmm.
as stressful as it was, I had all this ability to do it. My brain was working. So I was learning new skills, and those skills would transfer into other things because I could understand roughly how things work. And now I'm using ChatGPT. I see it as if you've got an employee working for you where they're doing the jobs. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, to grow a business, you can't do every job yourself. You get employees to do the things that you can't do. Okay, so that's basically ChatGPT. So that was fine. And then I suddenly became aware of, okay, well, how about my brain in general as a boss, for example, where I'm supposed to be creating and coming up with new stuff. And now I'm going to ChatGPT and saying, like, how can I expand and grow this? So now my brain isn't actually growing
Mm-hmm.
and creating new pathways as a boss. So now you've got employees doing the jobs that I would do, which is fine. That's no different to employ somebody. That's what chat does. But as a boss,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be constantly thinking. But if we're going to the chat to think of new things, my brain's not being used. So I'm basically becoming chat, becoming an employee, which is following what's being told to you versus working out yourself. We're all
Yeah.
basically becoming networks of
Robots.
dumbness and robots where we're not
Yes.
going to even be able to remember how we make a cup of tea. So therefore you ask chat will tell you to make a cup of tea, because our brains aren't used to learning from the last task that we did. Like
Right.
language comes from the last bit of language we learn. But if there's a gap between the last bit of language, because it's like straight to AI, our brains aren't going to be able to use the neural networks to go back to the last bit. So what do you do? Well, you either spend time trying to rewire it, or you go straight to chat because it's easier. But then if you go to chat, you're avoiding the problem, which is essentially like dementia. You're losing your ability to connect neural pathways. And the longer you go without connecting them, the worse it's going to be to recall information, like dementia. And so we're basically going to be getting a new form of dementia where we can remember, but we can't recall, versus a dementia person not being able to recall or remember. So we're going to be creating a new human brain at some point where it's there, but it's not, we can't access it. It's quite scary.
Right. It kind of is. I mean, what they say, like we only use 10% of our brain. So what, now we're only using 2, you know, I mean, it's just, it is scary. And I think, you know, not that I don't mean this in a way where like we need to be scared. You know, I don't think people need to be in traumatic situations. However, knowing the way of just the universe and the world, like not everything's going to go in your favor. We can't control everything. And we are creating these comfort bubbles, you know, where we're limiting more and more our skill set. And then when we can't do it, we just continue to outsource it, you know? So in your Chat GPT example, right? I'm like, oh, well, I just need a 1-word you know, I need 1 word for this. Okay, thanks, chat. Okay, you know what? Now I need a whole sentence. And that sentence turns into a paragraph, and that paragraph turns into a chapter. And all of a sudden, Chat GPT's written my whole book. And I don't know how to do it anymore. I don't have original ideas. I'm just relying on that employee to do it for me, which that's a great metaphor. You know, it's like maybe in the past or even today, some people have employees to scale, right? I'm only one person. If I can teach an employee my methodology, then they can carry on. They can do it alongside me. They can teach other people. We can expand this network. Are we hiring an employee just so that we don't have to do any of the work? That's sometimes a problem. Now, if you're retiring, you know, where you're like, I want to go travel the world, have someone else run this company for me. Okay, then you're putting your time and attention into something else, and you're going to go, you know, breathe in beauty, take in the world, meet people, socialize. If you're just using that as the opportunity to sit on your couch and scroll endlessly while someone else runs your company, that's when we get those robots. We're on autopilot. We are not using our brains in a way that helps us evolve and helps us actually feel safe in these moments. Everything's going to feel like a threat. And for a lot of people, everything does feel like a threat, you know, because we literally and figuratively can't think on our feet. We don't stay on our feet. We don't move on our feet, and we're not thinking. We're not creating those synapses and those, you know, we're not firing those neurons in ways that we used to, just to figure things out. You know, we don't need to figure things out. That robot will do it for me. Chat will do it for me. This app will do it for me. It's to go back to what you said, I think it's very scary.
So what I've realized is that at some point, if everyone's using like this AI, then everything online is going to be written in the same way, because everyone's getting the same information. So every article, every post, every website, every idea, every caption is going to sound exactly the same. Right, so there's going to be no unique individual writing. It's literally going to be the exact same. And so then our brains will start to understand how ChatGPT writes. So therefore our brains will kind of know what's being said. And if we're not getting stimulation, we're going to get bored. So you'd have all this information online where our brain kind of knows what it's saying because it said the same thing on our own website that we've created, that we're not going to bother reading it. And if we're not reading it, no one's going to listen and engage, which means there's 2 things. You start writing yourself to get engagement, or everyone just sees everything as a duplicate, that we just don't bother engaging online anymore. And so that could be the same as global warming. If we start taking care, the earth will reset itself and it will balance out again. The corals will start to grow, the icebergs will start to become icy again. If there's a fire, you burn it all down and then you create new seedlings and you start again. If there's war, you realize, okay, nobody press a nuclear missile because it's too bad versus good. So we learn once we get too close to the edge, okay, what we actually would prefer. So let's say everyone's using all this AI shit. It might lead us to a point where we're like, okay, guys, we don't know what's fucking real anymore. And I'm getting really anxious, really depressed. Like, I just want things to stop to ease the stress, but the stress is as a result of the unknown. So therefore, if we remove the unknown, which is all this AI stuff, there's going to be no stress. And so we'll hopefully start to all collectively feel anxious and therefore come off it. The same as loads of kids these days aren't drinking anymore, they're vaping. So the collectiveness does change over time. Back in the day, tattoos were a big thing and then they weren't, and now they are. Kids are like, okay, well, we don't want to go out in the pubs because it's too expensive, let's just go home. So things do change. And I think at some point, hopefully, people will be like, guys, I don't know what's real anymore. I don't want to go online. Like all these videos, is this Donald Trump saying something? Is this a real knife attack? Is this real traveling in Bali? Is this a real food? I don't know. It causes so much anxiety. I'm not going to be on this phone. And therefore, the chat AI world simply won't exist because it's only on the phone. And then we'll start again.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate you just said that. It is like we're going to have to start over. You know, like a baby learns to walk. It's almost like we're all going to have to learn to walk again. You know, we're all going to have to learn how to stand on our own 2 feet and, you know, before that, sit, crawl. You know, it's just, it's interesting to watch. I mean, okay, so real time example. I was seeing something the other day about, I forgot what area, maybe somewhere in California or the other, I don't know, New York or something, where parents are taking away kids' phones and giving them landlines. And, you know, watching the segment, it was on like the Today Show or something, like watching the kids get excited about something we most of us, maybe listening, had growing up that we've slowly let go of. I mean, you don't see landlines very often anymore, you know, maybe in companies and stuff and some households. But what I'm going back to is like the excitement, like these kids embracing older technology as something new, and maybe in some cases not even realizing it's old technology. They're like, this is amazing. Everybody should have this. You're like, we used to have this. And that was an evolution. You know, we used to just go to our neighbors' homes to ask for something, and we could call them up and, you know, hey, do you have this? No, good. I didn't waste my time going over there. So what amazes me is like what was old is new, and the excitement that we see, like that naivete, the like, oh, this is amazing, because we've overcomplicated so much. You know, can we just go back to just having conversations? No, everything has to be a comment. We have to, you know, post it, like it. Look, the word friends, you know, that word has been changed so much because, well, you know, I friended him, you know, he's my friend. We've never actually spoken. I've never actually met, but he's my friend. You know, it's like, oh, we've gotten to this place where I think the only place at some point to go is back to the beginning, you know, and almost like relearn to be human, relearn to use things outside of technology, even though I'm not going to say technology doesn't have its benefits. It absolutely does. It's allowing us to talk right now, you know, but are we using it because we can and it's a choice, or are we using it because it's the only option we have and we don't know how to do anything else? It's like, I want to know that I have the options, that, yeah, I can ask ChatGPT for a recommendation or a synonym for a word that I can't think of, but not because I can't do it myself, you know, not because I've lost that skill. That's scary to me, that we're losing parts of our humanity, like parts of things that we knew millions of years ago, that our ancestors figured out, that we just don't know how to do anymore. We're like, we've evolved, you know, we're better than that. Like, I don't think we always are. I don't think it's always better.
If you had one day left to live, what is the one thing that you would share to the rest of the world?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna go along with the whole movement thing, right? Is like every movement is an opportunity to change your life. Like any given moment is an opportunity. If something's not going your way, or you want to change something about how you think, who you are, you want to do more of who you are, like every moment is an opportunity just by embracing the way that you move. Just change something up about your movement. It changes your energy. It changes how you show up in the world, and it ripples to the people around you and the environment and the universe.
Okay. Anything you want to promote or plug before we finish?
Oh, yeah. Well, if people enjoyed this conversation, they can find me at ericahornthal.com or on Instagram. Talk about technology, right? But I'd love to make connections there, and then, bring them to life, have conversations like this, or meet in person if we're able to. My handle is The Therapist Who Moves You. I have lots of wonderful resources. You can find them all through that. So if you're interested in movement and mindfulness and body and awakening through embodiment and wholeness, then don't hesitate to reach out. I love to have conversations like these. And I appreciate your presence and you reaching out and having me on your podcast today.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please remember to subscribe, turn the bell notifications on, like the episode, and comment below. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's YesKingOliver. Take a look at the other videos to your side. And if you just want to listen to this podcast, you can do so on Apple and Spotify and most other platforms by going to talkwitholiver.com.